Welcome to the Buckeye Battle Cry Radio Network. This is Mike Meals. Today I'm sitting down with Ben, our editor. Just wanted to take a chance to introduce him to everybody and ask him a couple questions to make sure everyone knew, who it is that writes for the website here. First of all, I'm going to go ahead and start asking you some questions, all right?
Sounds good. No problem.
So give us a little bit about your background, who you are, where you're from, what's your story?
Um, Ben Van Ooyen. I'm from really all over. I've lived in, I think, 7 or 8 different states. Um, mainly in Ohio growing up. Um, went to Ohio State from 2000 2004. Um, I've been a fan for as long as I can remember growing up. My dad went to Ohio State. Both my dad's brothers went to Ohio State. So kind of grew up a Buckeye my whole entire life.
Okay.
Uh, didn't know anything better except hating Michigan and loving Ohio State. So currently I live in Durham, North Carolina, um, and I'm married with a 2 and almost a 3-year-old now. So
Okay. Okay. Cool. And what all is it that you do for the Buckeye Battle Cry?
mainly it's recruiting. So I write 3. Well, I wouldn't say I really write. I post 3. They're called "Heard Around the Shoe," just recruiting stories from that week that I follow along on Twitter and social media, all these recruits, and find out kind of what's going on in their background with Ohio State and their interest in Ohio State. And so I write about that, and then I've done the last couple of game recaps and a couple recruiting overviews for the Big Ten in a nutshell. Um, Mainly whatever's asked of me, I guess, to do, I try to do it. I started this week writing a top 10 for the national top 10. I know we
Mm-hmm.
do a Big Ten power poll. This is kind of just a one-off top 10 nationwide. I'll do that every week. So
Okay. So besides writing for us at the BBC, what else where else does your work show up?
I write I guess a contribution column every week to Scout.com for the Buckeye Sports Bulletin. Um, it's called A View from the Fan. It's
Mm-hmm.
just really a short piece showing or talking about how I felt last week's game went and what I feel like next week's game's going to be.
Okay. And you're one of the editors of the website, right?
Yep.
So before you came to the Buckeye Battle Cry, where were you writing at before? Were you just a writer, an editor there? What'd you do? Kind of tell us about your previous work.
Um, Basically, I just started off. I contacted the website Men of Scarlet and Gray, where Shannon and Chip were from,
Mm-hmm.
and talked to one of their guys, and they let me work there as a recruiting writer. So I started there. I don't even know, how about a year and a half ago, I guess. And I was writing about Ohio State recruiting and interviewing recruits, and that website kind of fell off a little bit and was going under some changes. And Shannon and Chip left, and I reached out to Joe and asked if he was interested in me coming along, and that's where I've been since.
So now that kind of gives us a good little story on your background. I know last night was a magnificent game, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on the Ohio State Oklahoma game?
Um, I was a little worried going into it. My uncle is a huge Ohio State fan. He went there. He travels to a lot of games. Um, the 2006 national championship and the 2007 national championship he traveled to, and of course we didn't win either of those. So I kind of gave him the kiss of death, that he wasn't allowed to travel to games anymore because I'm tired of losing these big games. He went to the national championship game in 2014 and kind of redeemed himself a little bit. And so when I found out he was going to the Oklahoma game, I was a little concerned that we might have a little letdown just because he was there. But everything turned out all right. The young guys, they really stepped up on the big stage. JT led the offense miraculously. Noah Brown made some incredible catches. Mike Weber looked like Ezekiel Elliott back there, even blocking a few times. I was like, it looked like nothing had changed, and the defense is way better than I or probably anybody else thought they were going to be this year in terms of overall, not overall talent, I guess, just in terms of how well they're playing together at this early of a get-go from only having 3 returning starters.
Me personally, I like I said on Twitter, I would have never have guessed we were going to come out and dominate like that. That was shocking.
I didn't have that thought either. I thought it was going to be a much closer game, and I'm glad it wasn't, just because it put me at ease a lot earlier than it normally would have. So
now just a couple things here. I know we kind of talk about some of this, in articles that we write and whatnot, but give me your thoughts on the Big Ten up to now and what you see going forward. Who do you think will win the divisions, that kind of thing? Give me a breakdown of the Big Ten.
Well, the new rankings came out today, and of course Ohio State moved up to 2. Michigan's up there at 4 or 5. Michigan State moved up nicely after their win against Notre Dame. Wisconsin's up there, so we're well represented in the top 10 of the polls. Iowa's loss last weekend kind of stung a little bit, just because it's to a Division II team, FCS team, but they're no ordinary FCS team. They're the however many time defending national champions. So
yeah.
The bottom of the Big Ten though is pretty bad. Northwestern, they beat Duke, but I don't know. Duke's not Duke this year. They're a little worse than they have been the past few years. Purdue, Illinois, they're just train wrecks. I like what Rutgers is doing, especially with Chris Ash, but I think he's going to have a rude awakening when Ohio State comes, or when they come to Ohio State in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And then the middle, the Minnesotas, drawing a blank on who even plays in the Big Ten anymore. Nebraska. They're a quality team. Their win last week was pretty good against Oregon. I watched some of that before, and I think it's top to bottom. It's an okay conference. The top is very well represented and very strong. I'm still not sold on Michigan yet, but we'll see what they're able to do. I think Michigan State can beat them. I certainly think we can beat them. But we'll see how it plays out. And as far as winners for the divisions, I'm going to say I'm going to go with Nebraska and Ohio State.
Yeah.
With Ohio State winning the Big Ten championship.
That's kind of funny, because those are my picks too. So
yeah.
At least I'm not alone. I have some intellectual wavelengths going across here, so we're good. All right. On that same thought, I think everyone knows the Big 12 is definitely basically done now. With Texas losing to California, and Oklahoma, who's not a bad team, but they're not a top 5 team anymore. Florida State went down. Alabama actually looked pretty bad against Ole Miss in the first half. Realistically, Ohio State was the only one in the top 5 that really looked good this week. But if you had the final say right now for the 4 playoff teams, who are you picking?
I write about this in my column for Scout, so I have to think about how I'm going to write this week. I know Ohio State's in there. I'd probably still have Alabama 1. They haven't really impressed me that much, but I think their talent is, besides Ohio State, unmatched in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they got back. They got beat up in the first half by Ole Miss, but then they just completely took over, and the punt return, and then I don't even know, Damian Harris, I think, is the running back. I think he's averaging like almost 14 yards per carry, which is ridiculous. So, yeah, Alabama 1, Ohio State 2. Um, Louisville.
Okay.
Yeah, they're. I think they're dangerous, especially with their quarterback, Lamar Jackson. I think he's got 18 or 19 total touchdowns already this year, which is 3 games is ridiculous. Um, and their running back's really good, and they put it to Florida State on Saturday. So um, Louisville 3, and my 4, 5 would probably be Michigan, Houston.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm just, like I said, I'm still uncertain about Michigan, and I don't think that they'll be there in the end. Houston has a good chance to run the table, but they play Louisville at the end of the season, so that will cancel one of them out for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't think the Big 12 will have a team. If anything, I think Stanford could win the Pac-12, go undefeated. They don't have too much of a tough schedule. They play Washington in 2 weeks, I think, and they got to play Oregon, who's always a difficult game, no matter when they're playing or who they're playing. So
Okay.
right now, Alabama, Ohio State, Louisville, Houston, Michigan.
What's your number one top fan Ohio State moment?
Oh wow. Um, in person, the 2006 Michigan Ohio State game, 1 versus 2, being there in person was probably the most electric crowd I've ever been a part of.
Mm-hmm.
Um, not in person, just because I was in college and it was the first one I'd experienced. The 2002 national championship win over Miami was just incredible. I was I guess, sophomore going into junior,
Mm-hmm.
and it was the campus was crazy. I walked out after we won, and just the amount of people in the streets and the insanity and the fires burning and the cars flipped over and the couches on fire, and just remembering that. And I worked at the college bookstore, Long's bookstore there
Uh-huh.
on 15th and High, and we had we came in that next day, and just the amount of merchandise that we had come in to distribute because everybody wanted it was, I just remember that being insanity. We were just basically receiving the boxes in the back and just throwing them out to the floor, just people going through them themselves. We didn't sort anything. So yeah, that's my in person and my not in person
Okay.
top moments.
So now on as a Buckeye fan, who is your all-time favorite Buckeye, both all-time and on the team now?
um right now I would say, I don't know. I've been a big JT Barrett fan. I wanted him to start last year at the
Mm-hmm.
beginning of the season. So I don't know, his demeanor and his leadership and his overall presence and leading the offense is just, he seems to make all the right decisions, minus that first throw he threw against Bowling Green. He's been nothing short of sensational this year so far.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all time, I was really young, but watching Joey Galloway was always fun. And for some reason, it always sticks in my mind. I was at I don't remember what year it was, 96 Ohio State versus Rice game when Michael Wiley's first 3 touches went for touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Reverse, a pass catch, and a punt return. So he's always been one of my favorites, even though he didn't pan out in the NFL. But right, Barrett and Galloway and Michael Wiley.
Okay. Basically, just we're gonna do a couple like lightning round questions just to kind of lighten stuff up for you. All right.
All right.
All right. So pick one: dogs or cats?
Cat.
Hot dogs or hamburgers?
Hamburgers.
College football or the NFL?
College.
Baseball or football?
It's college football, then football.
Okay.
It's the NFL. It's baseball.
What's one crazy story that most people probably wouldn't know, but it's kind of funny? You don't mind telling? It's not too embarrassing or incriminating. Sports or not sports related. What's one thing that most people don't know about you?
That's the one that's throwing me off my game. Wow. I only missed one home game during my entire college career, and it's because I went to a party beforehand and we played Power Hour, and I got sufficiently drunk, and I don't even remember making it back to my house at that time, and I just know it was against Michigan State, and we ended up winning. But yeah, I don't know how many people even know that. And just the fact that, I mean, a lot of people, I guess, know it, but I moved a lot when I was younger, and even since I graduated college, I've moved three times now. And non-military family, my dad just kept getting moved around as his job required it, and so I've lived in as far west as Nevada and as far east as North Carolina. So
Okay. What is it? I think we kind of touched on this at the beginning, but what is it you do now? Do you want to tell anybody about that or anything that you're kind of proud of? Like, do you do any community service kind of things, anything like that? What do you do for a regular job, anything like that?
I work as a purchasing and shipping and receiving manager at a small-time biotech company.
Okay.
So I'm in charge of all the purchasing and all the shipping and receiving and inventory management. I don't currently do any community service. I have a 2.5, 3-year-old that basically eats up all of my time. Chasing her around is a full-time job after my full-time job. So,
Okay.
But yeah, and I've been married it'll be 6 years this November.
All right. So yeah, just real quick, if you want to let anybody know again, where they can find you on Twitter or anything like that, and then we'll go ahead and get off here.
Yeah, on Twitter it's Buckeye BVO, all one word, and you can find me at the Buckeye Battle Cry, and just click on my name there. It'll take you to all my stories and my Twitter, and I have more followers than Brandon, but that's not saying, I guess.
Yeah, and by the way, anybody that's watching this, y'all need to go follow Ben, because when it comes to recruiting, he's the bomb. So let me just put that out there for you, bud. So
I try.